I'll start sharing here.
Right, and we're good. So
Okay.
hello, everyone. This is session number 15 of the Global Virtual Design Sprint Showcase. I'm here with my pal, the running bunny, in a field of happy daisies. Because this is Team Fuzzy Bunny, and I figured it might as well be a good background to use. What we're going to be doing in this session is going over their body of work that they've done for their virtual sprint. First, we'll go through some introductions on the team. Second, we'll go into their work and what they discovered in going through their challenge. We'll also look at the solution they came up with, as well as the prototype, the presentation that they did. We'll look at what users react, how users reacted to it, and some summary around their work. And then finally, we'll get into a little bit of the team's impressions of the process and how they felt everything worked out. So we're going to have Jason Rood to basically guide us through the initial presentation. He's going to be sharing that on the screen shortly. If at any time you have any questions, whether this is live or on demand, please feel free to post those in Zoom Q&A, or you can do it in the chat. If you are watching this from YouTube, you can also post your questions there, and we will get to them towards the tail end of our session today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go to Jason and start introductions on the team.
Sure. Excellent. All right. Can everybody see my screen okay? I'm going to try and go into presentation mode and see if you're still picking it up. Are you still picking it up?
Yes, Jason.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Jason, real fast, did you want to use the Sandy's template to kind of introduce the team before going? Oh, you already got it. Never mind.
We got you. We got you covered. We got you covered.
I'm gonna exit and go.
No worries. No worries. You stop us wherever you need to. So hello, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to present our work. We're really excited to share with you not only our prototype, but our findings, and we'll get everything started with doing some introductions. So hi, everybody. I'm Jason Rood. I was the facilitator on this project, also aided in large part by Mr. Sabu. Well, he's below me on the screen here, but he may not be for you, and he'll do his intros. But I hail from Chicago, Illinois, so USA. So hello, everybody, and I'll pass it off to Sabu since I mentioned you next.
Hello, everyone, and Robert, thanks for the opportunity. It was a fantastic sprint that we had, and I'm Subbu Hariharan. I live in LA. I'm from India, and I was helping Jason with co-facilitation for the sprint.
Awesome. Ken, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Ken Soto. I'm based in La Mesa, California, which is just outside of San Diego. And I was a designer on this project.
Awesome. Natasha?
I'm Natasha from Vancouver, Canada. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Awesome. I was the UX researcher on this project, so super excited to present the results.
Awesome. I think we have, is Douglas on the call too?
I think he's on his way. Maybe when he pops in, we'll say hello to Douglas.
He got stuck in internet traffic, so he's going to be a bit, but he'll get there.
Traffic jam.
Yes.
No worries. It looks like he's an attendee.
Okay, I'll promote him.
All right. Excellent. All right. So in the meantime, I'll go over some of the folks that aren't on the call, and if they happen to join the call, I'm sure they could do their own introductions here. But I want to introduce Fatima Kamali. So she was a great resource on this project. She was across several sprints, and she was actually the person who proposed this challenge that we take on, and was a great content resource, and provides some great perspective on what some of the other teams are doing that were handling similar challenges. So she was a great asset to the team. Michael Hawat, which I'll probably slaughter his last name, but he helped us out immensely. He had both are from Australia, Fatima and Michael, and he helped me or helped the team out with doing a lot of our design work, especially in the prototyping phase. Kim McCartan, who's from Chicago, Illinois, as well. She helped us out with a lot of content creation and was a really integral asset during the design sprint workshop phases. And then David Magdaleno, who I'm sure many from the GVDS community already know, served as a great advisor for us, and had some who joined a lot of the sprint workshops and provided some great feedback and helped us pivot in a couple of really critical areas. So yeah, so those are the folks that weren't able to join us for today, and hopefully Douglas is on.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, there you are. Go for it.
Oh, hi, I'm Douglas Struble. I'm in Sacramento, and I served as a UX researcher for this project. And this is my second time doing GVDS, and I'm really excited. This is an amazing experience a year later.
Yeah, absolutely. And it should be noted too that Douglas also served as one of our SMEs, one of our experts. He has an education background and served a really critical role in providing some really unique perspectives. So thank you to Douglas for all his help. So
You're welcome.
all right, we'll get started. All right, so we asked the team what some of their objectives were for just participating in GVDS. So some of us were return folks. We had a couple new folks as well, and primarily it was just, hey, we wanted to just meet new people. We wanted to learn about this GVDS process. We wanted to get better at virtual design sprints. We were at work across an international community. And this team really came together and gelled, and I was really, really impressed. And we had a lot of fun too. I'm really impressed with the output of what we came up with, and the findings, and the case study that we're currently working on for this project as well. So just really, really great overall team objectives, and I think we lived those throughout the course of the project. So what was our challenge? Our challenge was the next generation innovator. And so the challenge was, again, proposed by Fatima. And we really wanted to understand how might we take the great learnings from, sorry, I was looking at the chat there. We wanted to take a look at the great learnings that we had, or that we've learned from conducting design sprint and design thinking, and apply those to the classroom. And how might we be able to do that? And so as we went through problem framing and conducted a lot of that, we really started to focus on less about the design thinking tools that are out there in the community. We really started to focus on, okay, how can we get design thinking into the classroom? We know that there's political barriers in place, there's socioeconomic barriers in place, and what can we do to enable this to be more easily accepted by the design or by the classroom, to be able to take advantage of design thinking and design sprints, reduce classroom work, increase value and efficiency in the classroom, increase learning, and we wanted to really direct that at teachers and administrators. So that really came out very, very quickly in our problem framing exercise. All right, so who wanted to take sprint questions on? Is that me as well? I think it might have been me. All right, I'm forgetting already. All right.
Sorry.
It was you, Sabu?
I was speaking on mute. That always happens, right?
Go for it.
As Jason was mentioning, our kind of focus moved from designing a design sprint for educators more to how can we enable them to use design thinking, and how to cross those barriers, and how can we create a strong enough case for the administrators, that design thinking is worth to invest, and it's scalable, it's measurable. And another point that Douglas and rest of the SMEs brought was the time factor, that teachers are already thinking and they don't have time, and how do we enable them, or at least impress upon them, is that design thinking is going to help them in their teaching, and that's how to make time for learning design thinking and applying design thinking, and at the same time also let them run design thinking workshop in their school and later take it to the students in the classroom. So those are the 3 sprint questions we are trying to answer. Ken, you want to take this one?
Sure. The journey mapping that we did kind of identified the school principal as the actor that we would like to focus on. Our thinking was that the principal is kind of that person that can advocate for design thinking, both to the administration above the school level and also to the teachers, parents, and students of the school. So we wanted to journey map that particular actor and then find that target area where we thought a solution might be the most effective. So that was that place where the principal has already been exposed maybe to design thinking, maybe wants to do a little more research, learn a bit more, and has spoken to her teachers maybe about an experiment. She wants to find fun activities for students. That also teaches design thinking practices for all kinds of needs in the classroom. That was really important for us to make sure that we weren't just focused on design thinking as like a STEM focused lesson, but applying design thinking, the framework to all kinds of lesson plans that teachers face in their classrooms. So our solution sketches varied widely. And one of the things we discovered in our research is that there's already a significant amount of design thinking content and solutions being proposed for education. And we didn't want to emulate any of those, or we just wanted to learn from them, but then see where we could take them. So our top 3 solution sketches, a couple of them were kind of in the same vein of what we've seen before. Design Kit for Teachers was kind of an IDEO design kit approach, but made just for teachers so that they could use those techniques to integrate them into their lesson plans in the classroom. My little creative hub was kind of a more specific instance of that, where we were actually creating materials, games, worksheets, and other activities, all built around a website available for teachers. That got a lot of votes, and we really liked that solution as well. But the top vote getter of our solution sketches was this idea called Design Box. And Design Box, we imagine it as a mobile lab for design thinking, like kind of like a maker space that would travel from school to school. It would get dropped off at a school for a short period of time. We wanted to see where that would go, what kind of excitement we could create with the idea of this kind of mobile lab that would be dropped off at a school. So the mock-up that we kind of created for that was this idea of a 40-foot container box that could be modified and adapted to be that kind of space, that design box space that would be dropped off in a parking lot for a short period of time in the school parking lot, so that teachers, parents, students, and the whole community could look forward to this this lab being dropped off in the school parking lot for a week or a short period of time. Teachers and students could conduct workshops in the box, and each school classroom would get a box of design thinking materials to continue those activities in the classroom long after the box was picked up and moved to another school. We thought that the visual of this box and the anticipation and excitement that would be generated from this thing appearing in the school parking lot would really generate a lot of excitement, possibly some local news stories, and certainly the parents and the students and the whole community could come and witness what was happening. And inside of the box, it would be outfitted with whiteboards and countertops, some chairs, but mostly materials for design thinking activities that could be conducted both inside and outside of the box. So classes could have sessions inside of the box like they maybe currently do for computer labs or maker spaces. And teachers could then move their students into the box for workshops and prototyping, and then conduct maybe testing and other activities inside of their classrooms. But once they had the experience for a short period of time with the design box in the parking lot, then the box would get picked up and moved to the next school to start that cycle all over again.
So after we had the concept and the prototype of the concept, we were able to speak with 5 different users from our representative personas. And so we spoke with a principal of a design thinking high school. We spoke with a design engineer for a school district. And we spoke with 3 teachers, a math teacher, a STEM teacher, and a choral teacher. So there was a wide range of where they fit in terms of grade levels and schools and demographics and geographics. And we wanted to bring forward some of the quotes so that you could hear from our users, which are, of course, the most important part of the process. The positive quotes, the school principal basically was so enthused by the idea that he was like, I want that, it's rad. Seeing the concept excited him, it brought him into the fold and wanted to see it actually happen. And he's waiting for when we launch, which, stay tuned. But the design engineer noted that it was like a positive Pandora's box. There's this element of excitement and surprise with the box, that the actual container itself brought a lot of positivity. And the math teacher noted that this creates color and excitement and buzz in the community, and that it's a real positive force. So the next quotes are about the pedagogy that all of these folks hold so dear. The principal noted that this is about building curiosity to start, and that's a solid foundation, of course. And so the choral teacher also noted everyone learns best when you have an experience. And some of the other quotes are about things that we will be considering in our recommendations. The STEM teacher asked, can it truly be used by all schools? And that gave us a lot of pause and a lot of thought. The math teacher wondered, and noted to us that, in the end, it all comes down to funding and budgets, that, schools are limited in time and money, key resources. And so also, last but not least, our design engineer noted that teachers must believe that it saves time. So we did a quick word cloud, and the word cloud was using all of the transcripts of our users' interviews. And so the larger words that you see were mentioned more often. Obviously, design thinking, school, education, box, teaching, classroom activities are the ones that really stand out. And so the next slide is about validation. We wanted to know, did we actually answer the questions that we set out to answer? So can we make a strong enough case to the admins that design sprints are worth investing in and are scalable? And we felt that's a yes. We did make a strong enough case. The principal said, I want that, it's rad. This is worthwhile, this is worth investing in. Can we get teachers to make time to learn design thinking? We went with a no on that because we didn't feel that our prototype went far enough to give teachers the confidence around timing and scheduling as key resources. Can we convert administrator to run a design sprint for the admin? We put a maybe on that. We weren't quite clear. Our data didn't show strong enough evidence. The next validation questions that we wanted to answer were, will the prototype address our long-term goal? So our long-term goal was that in 2 years' time, administration will empower teachers to autonomously apply design thinking in the classrooms. And we went on a yes for that because of the fact that when our users gave us feedback, we saw that this solution could be a part of autonomously applying design thinking in the classrooms because of the fact that it left students and teachers empowered to reproduce the experience on their own. Finally, we wanted to know if we addressed our team challenge. Our team challenge was, how might we help teachers learn design thinking methods so that they can teach kids these techniques to tackle big problems and become future innovators? And we went with a solid yes on that.
Thank you. So in summarization of the project, basically the why behind why we did this was, currently education has several important complex problems, but they don't have the tools for solving them. So our findings showed that educators were apt to try design thinking and in the classroom and at their school, but they were lacking 2 fundamental resources. There was a scarcity of both time and resources, specifically money, at those schools. And there was an interesting correlation there that these lack of time and finances parallels a common condition in venture startups, which is an ecosystem that brought design sprints and practical applications for design thinking to the fore. So there's a correlation there that we found that could potentially be rich, fertile ground for design thinking in schools. So what Design Box is basically delivering is design thinking resources and training directly to those school communities. And our findings were that educators and administrators and parents across the board were all agreed this is design thinking would empower communities and see the future with ready problem solvers, which was the problem and task at hand. So what we found also is that the how of Design Box is what was key for its success. And those came up with 5 key factors in the how of how that would be applied. So firstly is making time. Time was the crucial element, making time for it in the classrooms or in the teachers' busy schedules to be able to learn how to do design thinking so that they could learn these kind of quick techniques they could bring to the classroom. Secondly, free of cost, that there wasn't any cost that was incurred necessarily by the school because they're have limited budgets, and that was something they don't have the flexibility to really work within. 3 was internal design thinking advocates, regardless of role. So it was more important that there was at least one person that could be the administrator, but it didn't necessarily have to be the administrator. It could be a teacher, it could potentially be a parent, someone that is in the school that could be the champion of design thinking at that school was vital for the success of this at a school. Also, number 4 was a key factor is the administrator approved. We had to have the buy-in of the administrator, but mostly that the administrator is the key stakeholder for the logistics of implementing this in a school, and that he might be under the influence of PTA or a board or the teachers at large, but that he or she needed to be involved in the decision-making process. And then 5 was site logistics can change depending on the school that you're at, because every school is different as far as location and populace, et cetera. So there's no cookie cutter methodology that we could work with. So initially our prime stakeholder was the school administrator because they serve as logistical gatekeeper, but this assumption proved to be flawed. Our findings was that the final approval process was not always just the administrators. There were internal advocates that were key to the success of these programs at schools. And so it didn't necessarily have to come from a top-down mandate, that it could be an internal change or a project or something that is grassroots. So, but moreover, what we kind of realized was that the stakeholders, the original stakeholders were the students. And that's what we missed. And that's the trajectory dealt much more of this project, dealt much more with the logistical concerns and missed outlining the solutions that were within the box. So this is a stakeholder pyramid, basically what we visualized of who the priority needed to be. The student is on top, that is the future of this project. And mostly the idea here is that if we're meeting the students and we're meeting the new teachers, which are the 2 key stakeholders here, then this will have a life outside of the box leaving the school. So, when people are there and they see the box, they're excited about it, that's going to influence the current teachers, it's going to influence the community and the parents, and they're the foundation of this pyramid, and also obviously the principal. But for the future, for design thinking to succeed at a school, it has to incorporate and understand the students and the new teachers that are going to be trained this after the box is gone. And then the through line or the center part is the principal. They are basically under the influence of the teachers and the community and the parents and the boards to bring this to the school, and are going to be the logistical stakeholders. So they're the core of it. So our solution is, if we identify the students as our key stakeholders, then the focus will be about what's inside the design box and how these methods can provide sustainable solutions in education and for the future. So let's get design thinking out of the box. Yay.
There you go. There's our presentation. And just so everybody has an idea of what we actually showed as our prototype. So we obviously couldn't bring a physical box um, to test with teachers. So we took the standing of kind of telling a story about the box and the importance of design thinking for those who may not have understood what design thinking was all about, and how we might actually present this to a school and get an institution engaged in discovering what design thinking and what a design box could do, and then some of the things that we might leave behind with the classroom, and then if this was promoted by other associations education associations, how might that influence their thinking? So this is how we kind of presented our prototype, and the feedback that you heard was based on those findings, or based on that presentation.
Okay.
So that is it. That is our presentation. Looks like we might have some Q&A here.
We definitely do. I just want to make mention that this is probably, and we've gone to 15 presentations now. This is definitely in the top 3 in terms of how it's been presented, how it's been shared, the design of it, the overall kind of explanation, both the challenge and the solution. It's very well done. I mean, all of you should be very well commended for the work that you put into this.
I appreciate it. That means a lot to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
We had a lot of fun doing it.
Especially the theme around not only the font choices for design box, but the kind of within the presentation, the different imagery that you used all throughout. So yeah, it was very well
It's great.
done.
It was really a team effort. Everybody brought their strengths to this project, and everybody's contributions were just really right at the right times, and it really stood out, and it was definitely a unique and really great chemistry between all the team members. So I was really excited to work with them. Hope I get a chance to work with all of them again in the future, and I think they'll say the same.
Cool.
Yep.
Now, and that begs the question: is there a small group of people on the team, or a smaller-ish group that is interested in carrying this conversation forward about this concept, or are you kind of putting the wraps on this today and kind of getting ready for the holidays, or what were the plans by the team?
So I think the primary plan, and team, please speak up and add any color commentary to this, but the primary plan is we want to get a case study out the door. We have a Medium article that we're finalizing right now, that kind of goes into more detail about all of our findings and our prototype, and we want to release that hopefully by next Friday. So that's the immediate goal. The long-term goal, I don't think we've talked about that all too much. But I think that there would be a core group of individuals here that'd be excited to carry it on if there was interest outside of this.
So essentially, one step at a time. Don't go too far, but at least like think of the short-term 3-month next steps and kind of go from there.
Well, I could tell you, I could tell you, Robert, from the commitment from the team. I mean, we've been meeting ever since our November 4th time when we started our sprint, and we've continually meted in the evenings, and the momentum has continued throughout. We've lost a few folks here and there to project obligations, but I've been thoroughly impressed with the commitment from this team to see this thing through. So I think absolutely this has got some staying power.
And I
if
also
there's
want
interest, folks.
I also want to make mention too, when I want to put this on the record, this team is actually responsible for this week. So because originally the idea was that the GVDS is going to end in November. I could go enjoy the holidays. Everyone can kind of decompress, get ready for social. But then, and I know this person doesn't want to take credit, but apparently there's an origin of somebody on the team, and I think it's Sabu, who said, you know what, it would be really great if we could showcase everything we're doing here to the general public.
Yeah.
So when that's stuck in my head for a while, I thought, okay, we got to do it. So so literally the impetus of this entire week and all the activities and everyone getting together and organizing everything and getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and all of it. Sabu, it's all your fault.
I gave you a lot of work to do, Robert.
No, but it was
I'm happy for that.
Totally fine. I'm only getting at it. But again, then again, you are also the person that made the suggestion, I think, about the GVDS case study site that we're going to be doing on Medium, where we're going to be taking things like this and telling and storytelling around what the team did, basically a reflection of what you have presented here, but putting it in story formats. So like sprint stories, we have our own kind of library of how individuals on from different disciplines and different backgrounds came together for a challenge, and make sure that it's documented so that you can look at that in the future and point to it. So.
Well, and I also want to highlight, I mean, our team members, magical, amazing. And the reason we have data to publish, the reason that we have anything to showcase is our users. So, you know, being able to speak with the people that I mentioned during the presentation really gave us some invaluable insights. So thank you to those people as well, just to highlight
Yeah,
that.
we really lucked out, and this team had some wonderful connections, and we're able to pull some strings. You know, Douglas and Ken really played a big role in grabbing some really interesting users to test with. So hats off to them and the rest of the team members that also helped out in getting some of these users, because as we know with GVDS, it could be a difficulty sometimes, and I think we really struck gold.
While we're thanking people, I think the whole team would agree that we had an amazing facilitator.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Jason
Absolutely.
was so experienced and so professional. He really, I think, is the reason why we ended up where we did, and we were as organized and efficient as we were.
I don't deal with this well, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Everyone knows it. I'm sure everyone on the team knows it. So
it's an
Well,
open
thank you.
secret. It's like, yeah, everyone knows it, and it's like one of those things you just like. It's like, yeah, it's so apparent. So you don't have to necessarily like put it up on a pedestal, so to speak. But yeah, week after week, even after the week was done, and kind of encouraging people, even encouraging in the face of when it seemed like there was just like lulls in times. You really should be commended for the facilitation you've done for this. It is, I think the overall the work that was done here is a testament to your ability to be able to guide people along and really keep the energy up here.
I really appreciate it, Robert. But let's not get too carried away. I know it was only the snap. It was only the snap camera that really brought everybody back.
Well, hey, if it lit a fire with everyone, then might as well. It'll make a comeback in April. I know it. Probably
There
not
you go.
filters, and everyone's gonna have to try it out at least for the first couple days.
There you go.
So we do have some questions that have been coming in Zoom, and I have to check over YouTube, but they're probably there as well. The first one I want to get to for the team to answer is by Noras Scully. She is an instructional designer and an ASL interpreter out in Oakland, California, and she was also somebody that took part in the Global Virtual Design Sprint as well. And her question is for bonus points, and she actually asked how might we to kind of spur some thought. Her question reads, how might we weave the established national science standards into the sprint to help teachers learn a method that correlates within the necessary outcomes they need to reach? And she put a link in here that's features, it says nextgenscience.org. And I'll go ahead and share my screen so you can take a look at it, so that we're all in the same place. There you go. So this is what she was referring to in the link. So again, I'll read it back again. It's like, how might we weave the established national standards into the sprint to help teachers learn a method that correlates within the necessary outcomes they need to teach?
Well, I'll briefly take this and just briefly say that obviously our focus here was engagement and adoption, and having this woven into the to that design thinking curriculum will obviously help drive that. So I think it's a fantastic idea. I don't know if Douglas, with your experience, if you felt or if you have any other thoughts.
Well, I mean, there's a multitude of resources out there about how design sprints have been used in schools. I would say that this would really be about having a teacher that is teaching the national science standards to learn about design sprints or learn about design thinking and how the process actually works, and then overlaying that with what correlating the outcomes that they're looking for long-term goals. So it would just be taking the content that's already pre-existing in the national science standards and then applying this kind of process to it. But I'm not a science teacher, so I don't know specific answers to this. This is like a recipe. I look at it as kind of a recipe for soup as far as making a national science standard soup. I would like to introduce this to the teachers that are teaching science, what design sprints are, and then use this as potentially a case study for them to build. And also, there's a multitude of resources that are currently already out there from IDEO and other organizations about how to use design thinking in education. And so there's multiple, I guess, recipe books out there to be able to do that. So that's where I would point them. And I would hope that Design Box would be all of those things I just mentioned, as far as like having the resources that are there on virtually online, all in one spot for teachers to go to, as well as having them be able to put, once this is done, then it can be shared and scaled to other schools. So potentially Design Box or this idea could be such that it's a two-way street, where it's a database of resources for, quote, science teachers or STEM teachers or whoever wants to use design thinking modalities in the classroom.
Nora also comments that you could also move into school and have maker labs set up, and she included another link down here, like a regional training center, XR Martin. This is a virtual reality, augmented reality training for high school students and adults. So this is another variation of it. I almost feel like, not to make a bad pun, but the container that you were talking about within the school in terms of being transportable and use it, you could potentially put different types of content in there depending on what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, Ken mentioned in his portion of the presentation is that when we started to do some research and really, as we were framing up this problem, and we started looking out there and going, man, you know, we all know about IDEO, right? But there's so much great content out there, and we were like, we don't want to mimic that, but we could clearly observe that there was a barrier between some of this great content and actually getting it into the classroom. And so that was really, that focus was just, how do we drive that adoption? How do we make it easy? How do we come to them, bring everything to them? And quite literally, that's what we came out in our prototype.
And out of our user research as well, we saw that teachers that teach math versus teachers that teach music, they look at the presentation of our design box and they think in terms of their topic matter. And so, I mean, Nora's question is well taken, especially for future iterations. It's, you know, how might we make this, how might we foster buy-in from teachers in different domains and make it feel relevant and applicable? In our presentation, some of the content referred more to sciences and math than it did to music or other types of, you know, topics and classes. So I think that'd be a really important consideration. And also the, you know, recommendation of the open source design thinking library that we are starting to think about for a future iteration of Design Box. Because there's lots of content. That was what our lightning demos showed, is that the amount of content out there just means we have to connect the people to what's here.
Yeah, cool. We had another question from Titania Veda. I probably slaughtered that name really badly, so I apologize. And I know her, we've talked before. She's a social impact communications and programs designer. She's a strategy director for Purpose PBC out in New York City. And her question was, in terms of free of cost, how might a design agency provide this for schools when there is cost of your own resources doing the research and creating a low fidelity prototype to test?
Well,
Douglas,
who wants to take one? Go ahead.
Just because Douglas and I just worked on the recommendations section, so I feel like it's fresh for us, but.
Yeah, I don't, as far as finding the money, getting corporate sponsorship, if there is any corporate sponsorship, I know there's lots of organizations that are working towards improving the educational experience of students, regardless of their school, some endowments, some foundations. I know that there is a lot of nonprofit money that is there. I don't know, there's also governmental stuff. I know that, for example, here in Sacramento, there's an innovation office of innovation that would be a prime candidate, or office of education. I don't know, I think it varies. And if you.
Well, and also we talked about like the shipping container physical form itself provided a huge space for advertisement for companies that would, you know, be interested in sponsoring and be associated with, you know, something positive and something future facing. And then of course the design sprint itself needs materials like Post-it notes, and there's lots of great innovative companies that might be willing to sponsor those, like 3M. If anybody's on the call from 3M, get in touch.
So I encourage any of the user testers that are kind of viewing this now, that are in attendance, to also ask questions, especially if you want to clarify some of the things that you experienced within the testing we did before. And Titania has another follow-up. She says, aside from sponsors, how might a design agency do it with limited funding? Or how long would the sprints take, including testing? It's kind of, I can kind of answer this, because this kind of speaks to the design sprint process. Since it's so versatile, you can do like something really short where it's just a 90-minute decision-making meeting where you basically get to brass tacks about, what's the thing that you want to concentrate on versus how much fun you have. Or if you wanted to do a full informational one-day design sprint that was just included like day one, where you kind of figured out all the information you needed to know and then set a course or a plot of direction, then the value conversation can come into play, where does it make sense in terms of other things that are on a school's roadmap? How does this fit into play? How does this fit into it? Is this a future consideration? Is this something to execute against right away? That would be my answer to it, but what does the team think?
Well, I would also say that one of the things that came up in our conversations early on was that, as Jason said, there's a lot of resources out there already. What could we do differently? And I think for us, we were kind of focused with the design box more on this whole idea of engagement. So it was mostly the notion of this box appearing in the parking lot and the enthusiasm that would generate. And then once we started looking at that, I think then we thought, well, a lot of things could happen inside of the box. It's mostly a container, not just for the activities, but also for the ideas. So from that perspective, design agencies locally here in San Diego, Qualcomm would probably want to get involved and maybe sponsor some of this, or have some of their own maker activities. They're highly involved locally in the schools here and creating maker opportunities. So those are some things that I think we would probably like to explore if we continue developing this, is, how can we get corporate sponsors, but other, like Douglas said, nonprofits and everyone else to kind of participate in filling these boxes with opportunities and activities that maybe are localized for particular school districts, but that I think a lot of those things are kind of open for us to explore.
So Nora's doing some active ideating, and
Yeah, she is.
and
She's got some great ideas.
The food truck or the sprint truck. So like a taco truck that overly pops up in front of enterprise buildings, maybe something a little bit bigger, you call it a sprint truck. So basically just pulls up, and I see these at state fairs too. People can kind of go in, kind of see what it's all about and interact with it, and then you can just drive off after it's done.
Yeah, pop-up. That was the original idea, was it's a pop-up.
Yep.
And the container maybe is not as efficient because it has to be picked up, but it's also a lot of space. But it could be a smaller thing. I mean, we immediately looked at, when we saw the box, we said, it's just like the old library trucks that would show up. Yeah. The mobile libraries that we maybe still have, but yeah, it could be even more mobile than it is.
And one thing as well that we talked about was local business sponsorship. Not to say that business sponsorship is the only way, but that the boon for a business is that then you have a school full of young, innovative people who know how to solve difficult problems. And so then you have a community of people that businesses can also turn to. So it really is a generative network. So we thought that might be interesting, and wondered about having an application form and a kit for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And Titania remarks that she says, thank you for a great presentation in the sprint and for answering her questions.
You're very welcome.
And also, there's a link that Nora shared that I'll pull up here. It was something, she said that IBM might be interested in something positive if it's an on-campus tech high school. Let me pull that up really fast and share it a minute. Link.
Wh-
So
I
there's
did want to mention one thing while you're pulling up that link, Robert, is that there's a wealth of information and a wealth of organizations out there to help fund, it feels, and create this box in schools. And I think what was learned from the design sprint at all is that that tapping those resources and what those resources are um, can be found, but more importantly, in focusing on the students, how can this then continue in the schools and bringing in that to teachers? And it could be this box, but that what's really, and there's a lot of information that's out there, but it's really about how does it continue after the box is gone, or how or even the facilitator that's going to be teaching the teachers is gone. How can this be seated within the community so that it can continue regardless of funding and regardless of the shell of the box? So, getting the stuff out of the box was the kind of end line that we gave, primarily so that there's a lot of initiatives and information and money to go out to these schools and offer these resources. But from being a teacher as well, it's really like how can that be much more sustainable? How can we create an environment or help them create an environment internally with the new students, or with students and with new teachers, that will allow them to kind of iterate this within their organization after this is gone. So a lot of energy, I feel, needs to be put into that idea. And that's what I learned from this design sprint activity, was that we need to focus on the students. What are the needs that they have that we're going to be meeting so that they can bring this into the future?
Yeah, that was the insight that actually brought us to the pyramid. Douglas was talking and he was saying the students are at the top of the pyramid, and I was just drawing the pyramid, and then I'm like, all right, who goes under the pyramid? So we had the students at the top, and then we figured our way down according to the data that we had. So I think that points back to the beginning of our challenge, which was next generation, the next generation innovators, and thinking about how might we leave a legacy of innovation in these communities that the Design Box visits, because it is a pop-up, as Ken said.
So I have a question for the team about this, and this is a question that I've been asking myself now for 2 events. There seems to be invariably, like this challenge does, it seems to have an audience of subject matter experts and people that live and breathe this stuff, especially when it comes to being in the mix and the administration side. And you talked to a design thinking high school principal. I don't know if it's high school, but you've spoke to school administrators, and you used the network that was already there for the team. What I started doing when I promoted some of these presentations early on, is I would actually do LinkedIn searches against some of the keywords that corresponded to your challenge. And I saw people that wrote articles about what you were doing, about mobile education, design thinking, and next gen kind of learning and stuff. And I'm wondering if it would have helped the team if that would have been done at the very beginning. Like if I knew what the challenge was, I would have reached out to them at least a month in advance saying, we've got this challenge coming up. We're probably going to have some teams already sign up for it. The minute that a team commits to a particular type of challenge, it's up to someone like me who's organizing it, or someone else, to scour LinkedIn, scour the net, and look for those people way in advance and see if they can get their time to either be an advisor or a subject matter expert or even a user tester. When do you think it's appropriate to kind of engage them?
I think in the very beginning, personally, it would help problem frame it. I think a lot of the realizations that we came to could have been made prior to even beginning the box, the ideas that we came up with, because just being a SME for this for this as well, it's like I was the tip of the spear as far as like looking into, and I think Ken as well, in his contacts of kind of framing the problem, like, well, what is the issue here, and is it the students, is it the administration, is it like, where is it? It would have helped us kind of solution better or more efficiently.
The follow-up question really fast, Douglas, is, and the reason why I asked, is does it make sense, instead of because this time around, I elicited the challenges from everyone, from the people that were participating. Does it make sense if that was more of a collaboration with those
Stakeholders?
influencers and people that are in this in the industry? It may influence the subject matter a bit, but it could give context and greater weight to the challenge that you do decide to choose. So that the originally it can be just a general blanket like next gen education, but then when you talk to the subject matter experts and kind of get an understanding of the space, you recognize where the opportunity is. Therefore, you change that, you make the challenge and kind of orient it towards that.
Yeah, so what I think, go ahead.
I was, that sounds right to me.
Okay.
If you get that kind of input first, then we get closer, I think, to an actual solution.
Yeah.
Because I think where we are right now is, this is a great idea. It needs to be evolved substantially more than we have. And if we had those people kind of providing the challenge, or at least guiding the challenge a little bit more, with a little more specificity, we might have a much more focused solution than we currently do. I love where we are, and I think the team does too. But I think we're all thinking like, how can we get closer to something that actually can work?
And I'm also thinking that the stakeholder that was involved in the very beginning, or stakeholders that helped to formulate the challenge, would also be there at the end to shepherd it into its next phase, because they can see how the evolution of the idea went, how the solution was being developed, and they can basically put 2 and 2 together and give it life, so that it's not the team trying to figure it out, but it's really already there because the person that was interested in kind of, or people that organization that were interested in doing it kind of know where it's going. And then they figured out, like, based on availability and interest, who would want to continue on the journey with them on that particular challenge.
I mean, if you think about it, that's the reason why we thought about a case study, you know, so that we can go out there. Now, if we have that upfront, which means that, you know, this can go definitely further. And right now, the value that we are generating would be, you know, a streamlined to an actual solution. You know, that could be, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we thought about the case studies and, I mean, showcase that there is a lot of value generated. It can go forward. Many of the ideas can go forward and be real.
Sure. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour. I don't want to take up any more time, just because I'll tend to go on Q&A, and this thing will last about 8 to 10 minutes longer. But this actually is officially the end of the Global Virtual Design Sprint with this session. There ain't no more after this for the number 3. You're officially closing this sucker out. I'd like to thank everyone on this team for all the work that you put in. You should give yourselves a pat on the back, give yourself an extra dessert over the weekend, whatever you want to do to celebrate. You really did a tremendous amount of effort to get all this together. And you have my support if you ever need any help with curating the case study, trying to find people to kind of talk to after the case study's done. I'm not going away because I'm pretty much at the center of this. Do call on me to kind of help out, or give me some tasks to do, and I'd be more than happy to kind of make it work. If the bunny in the back doesn't catch up to me first, which is overtake me and just tackle.
Well, in the least, you got a case study coming your way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one last thing before we leave, let's do a group photo really fast. And since all of you are pretty well
we have to.
Snapchat, I don't want to necessarily do that. But let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and just basically, there you go. Jason, you immediately.
I was ready. I was ready.
I'm gonna stop becoming the disembodied head. I'll do the same thing. There you go. All right, I have to do mine too. So give me a minute. I gotta get rid of the bunny.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Douglas, your underwater one was pretty great.
Okay, I'm trying to find it. Oh my gosh, where?
Like, I have a sponsor logo. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah.
Gosh. Ha!
Oh, there you go.
Oh, too bad I can't. Does the mouse?
We don't know who you are though, so.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go with a pirate. Oh.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yarr. Okay, that's gonna be my camera pose. Yarr.
Yeah, there's the token one I like. It's just the flaming. Yeah, Zubu's got the same thing. Oh,
Yeah.
your horns. They're kind
There
of.
you go, Douglas.
I'm
Right.
old.
I think those are IRL there, Douglas.
All right, hold on, these light up too.
Oh, there you go. Where's evil? My glasses have disappeared. Where'd they go? All right, wait a minute. Are you guys ready? No,
Ready.
I gotta change. This is not working for me.
This one kind of fits me.
Let's do. Oh, wait. There we go. Hi. All right, everybody. On the count of 3, we're gonna take a shot. All right. 1, 2. I'll post this up in the Slack channel. Thanks everyone who on Zoom and on YouTube who tuned in to watch this. It's been really
Thanks, everybody.
We'll be talking soon, but everyone have yourself a great weekend and take care of yourself, okay?
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.